Okay, yeah, definitely raw. One day we'll be professional. One day. Okay, warning. The following live broadcast may contain loud, obnoxious, shrill, and alarming noises that might be considered disturbing, if not outright uncomfortable to listen to, especially if you are wearing headphones. I share my office space with an African gray parrot and two parakeets, and I have no control over their behavior while I am live streaming, unlike my regular videos where I have the opportunity to edit them out as best as I can. If you are sensitive to loud, surprising background noises, I recommend either not turning your volume up too loud or watching my edited pre-recorded videos instead. Viewer discretion is advised.
With a few exceptions, the characters on this program are weird and peculiar and not to be trusted.
Okay, where were we? Okay. Again, StreamYard doesn't give me any graceful way of doing this, so whatever. Okay, hi everybody. So we're back for another. It's Wednesday already, so let's get this party started, right? Because we have something special and different today that I'm hoping you all enjoy. So let's. So already. Oh, look. Okay, so the chat's filling up already. Hey, Jake. Hey, Nita. Hello. It's like yeah. So so it's like already we're off to a good start. So it now also excuse the headphones. Like I said, I'm trying a new thing today, and of course, it's not exactly as aesthetically pleasing as I was hoping. But without further ado, it's like, hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel. My name is Daphne Lage, and I am a cartoonist, illustrator, and comic book artist out of New York. And I have been self-publishing comics since 1992. I am known mostly, mostly. I am known mostly for the furry fantasy comic Tall Tales, which is right here. My beautiful child, one of two right now. And I'm also known for my other comic, which just recently ended a very successful Kickstarter, which everybody should be receiving their books right about now. Um, and and it's Eagle Raven, Heir of the First Unicorn, which I'm putting together the second issue Kickstarter right now. So make sure that you sign up at my website at egoworks.com, egoworks.com. So you'll get notified when the Kickstarter for the second issue goes live. And and also talking about websites, if you want to check out both of my comics, Tall Tales and Eagle Raven, like I said, you could check out egoworks.com, EGOWORKS, and talltalesonline.com, TAILS online, where you can read the first 5 issues of Eagle Raven for free and the first 20 issues of Tall Tales for free. And like I said, don't forget to sign up. Not only do you get free comics, but there are 2 Kickstarters coming soon. So make sure you stay signed up for that. And if you're viewing this on Facebook, you can also watch videos of me working on these 2 comics with the occasional commentary / rant video that I keep getting told is they're rather entertaining. So I guess, and you can check that out on YouTube at Daphne Lage, LAGE art. So today, like I said, we're trying something new. We're trying something special here. And what I'm planning on doing is today we're going to be drawing, I'm going to be inking in a piece that I sketched out. And we're also going to have a guest who is also related to this piece that I sketched out. And let's see, again, no graceful way of doing this. So as you can see, right here, this is the piece I'm going to be working on. Hopefully this wire doesn't keep getting in the way. And this is a character from our guest's new book, which it is on IndieGogo right now. And without further ado, hey Sam.
Hello there.
Hello.
How's it going?
So, so it's like so this is my first interview live stream thing that I'm doing. So it's like the idea is that I'm going to be inking in this piece of one of your characters while we have, well, we conversate, like, light banter about your work. But
Amazing,
um,
amazing sketch, by the way.
oh, thank you, thank you. It's like your book, and hold on, let's just get that going there. So there you go. So you get your own ticker today at the bottom.
Nice.
So okay, so for our guests in the chat and my. I think we're at currently 860 subscribers. Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
Well, I'm Sam. I'm a comic creator, mostly known a long time ago for titles like "There's an Alien in My Toilet," "Cosmic Wars," and "Forbidden" at the time. So, "Forbidden" I wrote in 2000, and I released it in 2005. Only at the cons, so Comic Cons nationwide and stores locally in New York City. And I only did 2 issues back then. And so, um, the guys kept telling me, "You need to finish the project. You need to finish the project." And so I opened it up and I reread it and I got inspired and I finished the entire saga. And I commissioned another artist named Primat Santra to finish what Anibal has started. So Anibal Arroyo was the artist that did the first 2 issues. And the reason why I never illustrated Forbidden myself is because I was drawing 2 other books at the time, and Anibal just had a knack for fantasy art, and then Primat Santra took over, and he really complimented the book. So decided to launch on Indiegogo after talking to JD Calderon, who said, there's 2 different audiences between Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and you really want to make sure that you expose yourself to both areas. So I wanted to keep Cast the Crazies pure on Kickstarter, which we just sent everything off to the printers. So everyone will be getting their stuff very soon. And speaking of that, I got your books, Daphne. They came in the mail, and uh, and so which is why I'm doing the Indiegogo for Forbidden, and the goal is to, because the entire 137 pages are fully illustrated, inked, and lettered. But now it's time to get it colored, so that's why we're doing the Indiegogo. And I'm also a
Oh,
host of the Craze podcast, by the way.
oh yes, yes, absolutely, yes. We always want to plug, make sure we plug everything. Now, the thing is that so you said that you've been working on this project. I mean, because what's funny is like, because I remember you, from we go back a while, and it's like, and I remember this project floating around Forbidden since back then. And so let's let me start getting some work done here. So, and then we can continue with the details of the, I guess, like the book and whatnot. So the character that I have in front of me that I sketched out is the character's name Desiree.
Desiree, yes.
Desiree, yes. And tell me about this character. So what is who is Desiree?
Desiree is the daughter of Lord Vox, and she is the sister to Starticus, who earns the name Sin because he commits the ultimate sin. Um, and so basically, the Nocturnals are a group of people that live underground. And the reason why they live underground because centuries ago, um, where they roamed the surface, they were broken up into hunters, farmers, and guardsmen. And so a bunch of hunters decided to go out and collect food, and they went into a forest they weren't supposed to go into. It's a forbidden forest, and they knew that, but they still tried their luck. So they were immediately attacked by creepers, which were demonic beings that roamed within those woods. One made it out, got back to the village. By nightfall, a figure standing in front of the village and says, "Give us back the one who has desecrated our land, and no harm will come to you. If you refuse, you will suffer the wrath of Nokron." And Nokron is the ultimate evil. He is the one who is basically the overlord of the dark world. They chose not to give up the hunter, so by morning they woke up to screams, and they started burning from the sun, alive. So they raced to get away from the sun, and they went on the ground, never to be seen again. And so, centuries later, the world has evolved. So has Nokron, in the form of David Hunter, which is a billionaire mogul, and the goal is to control the globe. And while they have evolved, the Nocturnals have not, and they've remained on the ground ever since. So no one even knows of their existence, other than the Dark World. And so, but legend has it that Nokron's plans will be destroyed when the son of Vox rises. And so they can never let that happen. And this is where issue 0 takes off in that we're currently promoting on IndieGogo. It's when the ultimate sin happens. And so Desera is a descendant of a family where only men can rule. Only men are warriors. But what happens is when they went underground for years, the dynamic has changed. So they needed everybody to be able to fight. They needed everybody to be able to survive because underground there's a lot of other creatures and demonic beings that roam within the caverns. So they all had to learn how to do everything. So she has learned. She's courageous. She's fearless. She's strategic. She's even keeled, patient. But she's caught in the middle of a dynamic because her brother, his name is Starticus, he owns the name Sin, he doesn't believe in the curse. He wants to challenge this theory. He wants to go to the surface. And that's where it takes off. And Lord Vox is not hearing any of it. And so you'll see in the beginning, it starts off with that conversation between him and his father. And then it gets crazy from that point on.
Well, you had said that, like I said, I remembered this book from back in the day, and you got Annabelle to do the Anibal to do the first 2 issues. Now,
Yeah.
was there a reason why only 2 issues made it back
Yeah.
then?
Yes. I could tell you that Annabelle still has flashbacks from it. So what happened was I started working on Disney in my toilet. And so his name is Duty. He's from Uranus. Anyway, so I started working on Duty, and Duty took over everything. And I was producing issue after issue of Duty, and I was promoting it. And at that time, I was getting a lot of press from that. And so I was on this press tour, and I was going on the TV, and I was doing all this stuff for Duty, and I stopped writing Forbidden. And so so Annabelle for years didn't forgive me for that because he was very passionate about it, and you saw it in his work, his art style. He really, really complimented the story.
So Anibal to this day still blames Duty for for derailing the project.
Yes, Duty pooped on his plans.
But, oh no!
Yes, but and at that time, and I even put Cosmic Wars on the side because I was doing Cosmic Wars and Disney in my toilet, and then Cosmic Wars fell off, and then Forbidden fell off, and then it just became all about Duty.
All right. Well, how did you feel about that personally? About having to put this project on the side back then, in favor of like Alien in My Toilet.
I think at that time, because we were getting so much attention for Disney in My Toilet, that was going to be the foundation to kickstart the other stuff. So I was like, all right, if I put these on hold, if I could, because I was close to securing a deal with Warner Brothers, and until they changed leadership, and so I was like, if I can get this on animation and I can get this picked up, then I can really put my focus and finish the story, and then Anibal can finish illustrating it, and we'll give Forbidden its own avenue. So that's why I put it on pause, because there was momentum going with Disney in My Toilet.
So it was just as much strategy as it was, just a decision that I mean, technically strategy is decision making, but there's a certain deliberateness to strategy that sometimes we have to do in order for a book to, I guess, survive.
Yes,
the initial,
because for me was when I write anything, I become the story, I become the characters. I'm not just the hand that's moving the typewriter. So I get into every character. I look at the scene through their eyes. How would they react in this scenario? And I look at who their cast members are and how would they react. And so it takes up a lot of energy. So I knew that I didn't want to shortchange Forbidden. And so although I had the entire arc as far as the plot written, their backstory, their character bios, all that was already written. So I already knew what I needed to do. But when I go and write the script, I don't want any distractions. I want to give it 100%. So at that time, I felt that Forbidden was too important to, excuse my language, but half-ass it.
Half-ass it, yeah. It's okay with 13 plus up.
Yes. So cool. And so I didn't want to just do it for the sake of doing it. I really wanted to make sure that I give it all of the attention it required of me. And so in 2018, when I took it out of the basement and dusted it off, I was ready. I was re-inspired, and I was ready to finish the story. And I wrote the other 4 issues, and I added some more characters and closed up some of the loopholes that I identified. And then it was about just getting somebody to finish it. And in 2018, I partnered with Prima Santra. I found him on DeviantArt, and he finished it around 2019. So it took about a year to finish the 4 issues, and no one's seen it. It's been sitting in my chest for now, until now. And now we're starting with the preview edition, which is the introductory story to the entire world. And I thought where it starts is a great way to start this story. It starts at that point, that the pivotal point where you're introduced to a lot of key members. And what's great about Forbidden, and only 2 people know, or 3 people know, it's pretty much myself and George, is you don't know who to trust, and you don't know who's going to make it throughout this whole journey, and that's the fun part of it.
Oh, you're kind of but like in a Game of Thrones kind of way, where it's like it could be anybody at any time. Like don't fall in love with the character, kind of.
You're writing it. I was at odds. I was at odds with decisions I had to make, but I knew that in order for this to happen, this has to happen. You know what I mean? So it's like there's certain events that need to take place in order for the story to evolve and other things to take off. So writing it, I remember putting it down, walking away for a few days, coming back, thinking about it, and and my process when I write, I usually have a dry erase board with all of the character names and lining up the plot and what's going to happen here, and so it's like a forensic board for me.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden it's an episode of CSI in your office, right?
Yes. And that's what I enjoy the most when I'm working on it, and I'm glad that it is a complete arc. So you'll get a start, middle, and an end.
Mm,
But at issue 6, at the ending of issue 6, it allows you as the reader to envision what will happen to certain characters if the story continued.
mm.
You know what I mean? So it ends in a way where it leaves you creating your own story.
But do you have plans on continuing beyond that, or is it just like
It all
you
depends on
just kind of leave everyone hanging?
it all depends on what happens between this IndieGogo and going forward. So
Mm,
I'll know, I'll get a good sense of, um, do I need to go and create another arc, or do I leave it as is?
mm.
So right now, I'm testing. This is my first time on IndieGogo, and so far this is my third campaign total, 2 on Kickstarter, 1 on IndieGogo. So IndieGogo's new. It seemed easier to create everything, but it's definitely a different space.
Yeah, yeah. It's a tougher crowd
Yeah,
over there.
yeah. Trying to figure out, because when I looked at the data, how do you convert? There was 170 people, since I launched it, that visited the page. How do you convert that into pledges? So those are the things that I
Right.
figure out. Because I honestly, I truly love the story, and I know the guys love it. And it's definitely entertaining. Um, and when I released it back, I only released the first 2 issues back in 2005. We got a lot of critic reviews, of really, really great reviews. So I'm just hoping to recapture that dynamic in an arena that's changed, and it's heavily competitive.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I can tell you, every time I look, I see a new. In fact, we got 2 guys today. Uh, I think I'm promoting more crowdfunding than I'm actually promoting myself. But I have I have 2 guests today on the show. One that I just posted up, Russ. He has The Listener, and really good story, really good. I mean, amazing. And then I have at 6 o'clock it airs. I just uploaded it. I don't, and It's Dave Swartz, and he has Confederate Monsters, and amazing work. And he did everything himself. He wrote it, illustrated it, inked it, colored it, lettered it. He did packaged it, everything. So you see the talent that's out there, and you're like, the competition is thick, so people have a lot to choose from. So it's like, how do I get people interested in Forbidden? You know, those are the questions I wound up asking myself
Yes.
today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That those are the questions we're always asking ourselves every time we do anything nowadays. Now it's like, oh, how are we going to get attention for this? How are we going to get attention for this?
Yes.
So what made you decide to put out like a zero issue? Because it's funny, it's like that was the stuff that everyone was doing back in the day. So it's like it seems very normal on one hand, but um, so what made you to decide to put out a zero issue as opposed to putting out like a trade or going straight to issue 1?
Because it's zero. It's a 16-page story with 8 pages of the maps, the world maps, the character bios, designs. That it's a really great introduction to it. And those 16 pages are really strong and dramatic. And so I really wanted to give people an introduction to it. And then after that, the 24 pages going forward. Um, but this, I think it was a great way to set the tone, because you have in these 16 pages, you have 4 key characters that are introduced, and you'll get a full grasp of where you're going from this point on, with this series. And I think it was a great introduction. I think for me, it was like, how do I introduce it to the world, in a way that's not going to shortchange anybody, because you're definitely not getting shortchanged with it, even though it's 16 pages, but the 8 pages really closes the gap, additional. Um, and give them enough to want more. Because the goal is, if I raise enough on this campaign, I can get the entire arc colored, and then my next campaign would be the potentially the collected edition. If not, I'd have to do
Right.
one and another one to have the entire series colored, because I want it consistent. Because right now it's in black and white, but and I want the coloring consistent throughout the entire thing. And it's finding. I have an idea of a couple of people that I plan on commissioning for it, but I'm gonna wait until see how we do with this.
Yeah. Okay. So this IndieGogo serves multiple purposes.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like it's the promo. It's kind of like breaking the ice. It's raising funds for coloring. So when you were pretty much, I guess, resurrecting this project from and going through the story, did you find the story changed since when you first wrote it to when you finished it because of the amount of time?
No, the story evolved. So, like, for instance, only thing that changed in the first two issues was some of the dialogue, because when I added the other characters and some of the new stories within the story that are going to take off, and I read the first two issues, I realized I needed to link them, and so the artwork was still in line and the panel structure was still in line with the story. All I needed to do was change some of the dialogue. So it evolved. It definitely took off from what I initially had in mind in the beginning. All the original characters are still there, but there are a few more that weren't in the original Bible. I call it the Bible. And so I added that in, and it's really fun. For instance, there's an African prince named Shaku, where I added, stories about him and the connection. There's some other characters I can't disclose because you don't see them till later on, but Shaku have been promoted. But yeah. So it evolved. It didn't change. I felt it matured.
Yeah, that's actually the word that I was looking for. It's matured, because it's like, yeah, it's like, because when we started writing, it's like, even with my own stuff with Ego Raven, when I started writing it 20 years ago, it now it's a completely different story than what I started with. So it's matured, like the story matured like wine. So let's talk about, like, before you came up with the story. So what was the inspiration for Forbidden?
See, it's hard. So people knew me for like the funny cartoony stuff, but prior to Cosmic Wars, which was my first book that I produced independently, I wrote a book called The Book of Wrath, which was about a demonic priest. He's performing rituals on people, and detectives are trying to figure this out, but there's a demonic priest, whatever. So I wrote that book, and I wrote a book called Tales of an Assassin that I was producing, and then the team that I was working with, everybody went different ways, and so I ended up doing Cosmic Wars. So I always had a passion for drama, suspense, action. I love fantasy. But it started with Sin. I created Sin as a character, and I remember drawing him, and Sin in the surface form. So there's two forms that Sin takes. So there's Starticus, which is in the confines of the cavern with the Nocturnals, and then there's Sin. So I designed Sin first, and then I started asking myself the question, why did I call him Sin? That can't be his birth name. What is his birth name? How did he get the name Sin? And so then it's like, all right, then maybe he had to commit the ultimate sin in order to get it to be known as sin. What was that? And that's how I started. And then the characters started coming, the supporting characters, Desera and Lord Vox, and then the story started building from that point on. But it started with that one character, and at me just asking the question and working backwards. And then when I figured out what that sin was, and I went back in time, I needed to go. All right, so now what happens after they ended up in the cavern? What's changed, and because the world changes all the time. Did they change with the world, or did the world change without them? It starts, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I was in security for 17 years, so I ask a lot of questions.
So you're even interrogating your own characters.
Yeah. So that's my process. It's asking enough questions to be able to come up with enough information to start building. So it's like building blocks and layers. So it just started with him, and then I illustrated him and Lord Vox, and then then Desera, and then I was like, well, there's got to be another player, and that's when I added the love interest, which was Arius, and what was her role in this, and then I was like, is there any connection to the surface? If it is, what is it? What does that look like? So all those things started taking shape for me.
So if you were like to describe Forbidden, and because you keep talking about like it's this fantasy that takes place, but also simultaneously takes place in like the modern world. So what would be, I guess, like a quick description of, I guess, like what this is like thematically? Is it, it's like obviously the Conan references are there. I mean, when I was looking up all the artwork for Forbidden in order to draw this sketch, I mean the Conan references were obvious. So obviously it's Conan, but not really though. I mean, not to be completely simplistic. But if you were like to compare it so that people kind of like have like a quick shorthand as to what Forbidden is, what would that be?
I think it's a combination of the Born Identity meets 300 with a sprinkle of Conan. I think it's because there's a point where there's an identity crisis. There's a point where the world is after one person, and this person's trying to figure himself out. But it's old world meets new. It's a clash of worlds. And what's great about it is that you're going to see some epic, amazing scenes. But yeah, so I think it's like if you take Jason Bourne and 300 and sprinkle in some Conan, you're going to get Forbidden.
Wow, that's quite the that's quite the recipe. Yeah. But yeah, that's
because now
that's
only show you old world.
Right. Yeah, that's because because right now that's all it looks like. It looks like old world, and then all of a sudden, wait a minute, where the helicopters come from?
Yes, that's where it takes off, and it's definitely a ride. It's definitely a fun ride.
So you had mentioned that it's like, because what's funny is that because it's like the thing about that's excuse that the thing about that surprised me about Forbidden was the fact that it was so unusual from what you had, I guess, what we had known you for. That we had known you for like the really lighthearted comedy and I mean, the book's name was Duty from Uranus, so it's like I mean, that's what we were, like used to. And then all of a sudden there's this forbidden book hanging out in the background. And now it's like, it's finally in the forefront. So would you say that this, I mean, was this something that you prefer doing, like more serious type of work, or is duty something, and that type of comedic work something you see yourself going back to?
It's hard because by nature, comedy is easy for me. It just comes natural for me. Um, I've always looked at myself as an artist, but then I realized that I'm just I'm a creator, and so Forbidden is something that challenged me. It challenged how I approach character development, how I approach um, world building, how I link plots. It really challenged me. With Duty, it was I illustrated and wrote the dialogue simultaneously. Forbidden, I created everything first. I wrote the backstory. I did all of the legwork. And when I started writing Forbidden initially, I was thinking of making it as a novel. And
Oh, okay.
and so then I paused and I started writing the script. And I said, well, what would this look like as a comic? And then I just started writing the script for the comic book. And I never went back and revisited the whole novel idea. But I think for me, it's timing. So when I did Duty, it was at a time where I was just inspired, and I was there was a rhythm, there was a development rhythm that I was in with Duty, and I didn't want to lose that momentum, and I just did focus on just creating Duty, and um, so then when I went back and revisited Forbidden, the same thing happened during the writing process, but rewriting it and finishing up the script took me the arc took me in 2018 at least 6 months to finish it,
Mhm.
uh, because I gave a lot of thought to each character. But yeah, it's moments in time. There's these sprinkled of inspiration that comes from somewhere, and I just ride that wave when it happens, because I don't want to lose that momentum. When I was a kid, I used to see characters in my head, and I'd grab a pad and I start drawing those characters that I would see those images, and that's how I would
Mm.
create. I think the same thing happens with story development. I think sometimes you know words are flying by. And it's like, all right, start writing, and
Okay.
you have to start creating. And yeah, so I think people knew me for one thing, but what's great about Forbidden is that you get to see diversity in what I do.
Right. So you didn't want to, like, you're not pigeonholed into one thing, I
Right.
guess.
Yeah, it's
Like,
like
right. Um, so the novel thing, which I found interesting. So how far ahead into this novel did you get before you decided this is going to be more of a visual story rather than a textual one?
it was just chapter outlines. That was it.
Hmm.
That was as far as it
Oh,
got.
okay.
Yeah,
Right.
so yeah, because I wrote the entire Bible first, and I created all the backstories and the character bios and defined the characters, and then I started saying, all right, I want to write this as a book, and I said, all right, what would each chapter look like? How would I pace it? I was looking at the start, middle, and end, um, and then I was like, well, maybe I just do it as a comic, and I went that way because I felt at that time I wasn't the word mature. I wasn't. I don't think I was ready to tackle that big of a challenge for me
Mm.
because it was definitely uncharted territory for me. So I was like, all right, let me get some experience and let me, become seasoned and get to gain some more tools down the road and see and revisit it down the road and let's see what happens.
Now, because you were thinking of this as a novel, um were there things that like you think that as a novel you would have been able to explore better as opposed to a comic, or because you had everything in outline form and you didn't really get to the prose part, that you were able to more easily incorporate everything into the comic, all your information?
I think with a novel, you're definitely going to be able to dig deeper and elaborate on certain things. I think with comic books, you definitely have to omit certain things in order to accomplish. So you have to be able to, in 24 pages, I look at the comic book as a chapter. So there's 6 chapters to Forbidden. So you gotta, and within those chapters, you gotta be able to really convey the message, and the artist has to be able to do his job in being able to do that visually. Um, so there's going to be certain things that might be omitted in order for pacing. I think the novel you can draw it out longer. You can really go into real backstories and link things up. So I think there's a lot more. That's why um, again, based on how this does will determine what I do going forward.
Hmm. Now, so you mentioned that a couple of times, that it's like a lot of your being able, I guess, to continue forward with your project really hinges on how it performs on uh, how these campaigns perform.
Yeah.
Um, is that something that is more out of necessity, like if for some reason the campaigns don't do as well, god forbid, we're it's it's like we only wish the best for all our campaigns.
Right.
um it would this like would this book still move forward anyway, or because you require so many other people to be involved that it affects how the project moves forward?
It would move forward in black and white.
Mm.
Yeah, because I am now a brokepreneur. So,
Copyright and trademark.
I was in the security retail industry for many, 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 many years, and when the organization I was working for went bankrupt due to the impacts of COVID. December 5th was my first day not working since I was 13. Because when I was
Wow.
13, I was bricklaying, I was paper boy, I was doing whatever I could to make money. So I've been working nonstop since I was a kid. So I knew nothing else. And so in talking to my family, they convinced me to go after my passion. And
Oh.
we took a deep dive into my finances and said, well, you can get by for a certain period of time. After that, we have to reconsider what your options are. So I can't go where before, like the artist, I paid for them out of pocket. So like the Book of Forbidden is finished prima santa, was paid for. Cast the Crazies, I'm taking over issue 5, but JC Grande, he was paid for all the issues he's done. So and when we started him off, I paid him up front, and then we got the Kickstarter. So I'm not at the where before I was able to take risks because I could take a portion of my earnings and dedicate it to my passion. Can't do that now. I have to be really cautious on how I spend money, and so now I'm really dependent on if I'm going to get it colored on the campaigns. If not, the goal is still to pitch it to publishers to try to get somebody to pick it up. If not, it'll be available on print on demand in black and white and on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com as ebooks.
But it's all it's like I guess it's all the hats we have to wear, and sometimes the weight of all those hats
it's a new
wears down.
I've never, I mean, believe me, it took a lot of convincing for me. It was, my family telling me why I should, And I'm like, I've never been that more afraid of something in my life of not working, and then to be able to tell recruiters, not now. And,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
that was
Mm.
the hard part. It was like, wait, I'm not ready just yet, and that was the hard part because I work 14 hours a day doing this. I don't leave. I roll over into the living room and I go on the couch when I'm done at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, and trying to get this off the ground. And it's newfound territory. It's scary, but I believe in this product. George believes in it. The guys believe in it, and it's going to have his day in the sun. It's just a moment. It's about timing.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Because it's like, yeah, because I'm so used to, I mean, unfortunately, it's like, so many projects just getting lost in the wind because, it's like just things just don't line up. And it's like, it's just nice to hear that it's like, no, 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 this is still going in one form or another. It's still
Yes.
pushing forward. Right. And because like, what, it's like you said this was 18 years in the making. I mean, it should finally have its own day. It should finally have its own day in the sun because it's like it's been 18 years. Why not? Right? It's like
Yeah.
um so what was the process like putting the book together since you're not you said that you weren't you weren't going to draw this book.
Right.
And you had Annabelle do the first two issues. So what was the process like, I guess, putting together the team that you needed to get to see this book to fruition?
Um, in the beginning, Anibal, I say lucky. We got lucky meeting Anibal at a Star Wars convention that we should not have been at. Um,
Well, obviously you needed to be for it
yeah,
to happen. I mean,
yes,
it's that, right?
look at the positive, right? I think we sold one
Uh-huh.
book or maybe none. We had a Star Wars convention. Two things came out of it. We were on a documentary called Inkswell, and we met Anibal Arroyo. And initially he was supposed to be. He started working on Street Journal, and then I guess it wasn't moving at a faster pace. So I was like, "Look, I got this project. It's already done. The script is ready. Here's the Bible." And I gave him a binder, and I had everything: the character bios, character designs, and he's like, "Oh hell yeah!" And so I gave him the storyboards. It's like, "Go for it." And for me, because I'm an artist as well, I wasn't gonna stand over his shoulder, and saying, "Do this, do this, do this, do this." I wanted him to play and have fun. I wanted to see if he would. And when he read it, he fell in love with it, and you saw that in his artwork, and that was the best thing. And he just reminded me recently that there was one thing that I had him change out of the entire thing, and but I come from the mindset. There goes my kids acting up. I come from the mindset of, when you have talented people, your job is not to tell them how to do their job. Your job is to give them the platform to be able to shine. And so that's the way I've always worked with people. It's just do what you do best. That's why we're working together, and we'll complement each other throughout that process. And so with Anibal, that was what happened. I think you go a decade later, visiting the whole project. Hold on.
Yeah. I know the feeling. There we go.
Revisiting the project, now trying to find somebody within my budget, because I was paying out of pocket for this. At that time, I didn't know, I wasn't even up on crowdfunding in 2018, and so um, I went through, I think, 50 portfolios. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and then he met my budget and he met the style I was looking for, and it took him 3 months per issue, and to pencil and ink, and but his style complemented it. And then at that time, I said, you know what? While I'm at it, let me get the trade cover illustrated, because I wanted to collect it into one big book. And so I commissioned an artist called Ifata. I forgot his first name. I got to look it up. But and he did an amazing double page spread of the cover where you have the dark and the light. You have the good and the evil and the good guys. And so I had that in the pipeline. So now that the book is completely illustrated, I even have the cover for the trade. So the goal is to eventually collect it all together. And when I do that, that's when I'll get the barcode and ISBN because I'd like it to get carried in stores. But yeah, so working with Anibal, it was easy for him to interpret my designs, and then he just complemented them with his style. And then the illustrator, the way I worked with him, Prima Santra, was he'd send me storyboards, like he'll send roughs,
Oh,
and then prior, and then I would go and give him my notes and highlight anything that I think needed to change, maybe an angle or a scene or motion or whatever it was. And then I send it back to him, and then he'd go and send me the finished layouts. I'd approve it, and that's how we did it. And then with the cover artist, we went back and forth with just layout. I sent some rough sketches. We played on it. We talked about camera angles, all that stuff, and then he just worked his magic and created a masterpiece.
yeah, no, it's a very dramatic
Beautiful
looking cover. Yeah. So you had said that on one hand, it's like, oh, we want the artist to play, but on the other hand, I kind of know how our own egos can get in the way if especially when it's like we're like, oh, well, I would have done it like this and I would have done it like that. Like how much of that thought process, like, did you have to like put aside when you saw the roughs, or was it kind of easier than you thought it would be having somebody else do the work?
It was easier with Forbidden. It was with Cast of Crazies. There was a lot of notes, because Cast of Crazies has a specific look, and so I think with Cast of Crazies there were a lot of notes going by. I remember one time I was like, "This he's probably gonna quit after he sees all these notes." There was a lot of feedback, and then to the point where I would re-illustrate the scene and say, "This is the
Wow.
this is the angle it should
Wow.
look in," and that kind of stuff. With Forbidden, I didn't have to do that. Forbidden, it was more of, hey, you missed this symbol, or hey, this wasn't the character that should have been in the foreground. It was this character. But not. I think with the 6 issues of Forbidden, they were not even 10% of the notes that I did with Catch the Crazy. And Catch the Crazy only because it was maybe the look of the characters, the way they were designed, or some things were missed in the script that weren't conveyed in the image. So it was like maybe didn't see it when he read it. So yeah, in that case, I respect the artist's craft. If they can take the text and convey it in the illustration, I'm good, because I'll just give it a once over because I already know the script. I'll give it a once over and I'm like, all right, that's fine, that's fine. It's only when something glaring stands out, I'm like, wait, that doesn't make sense to me. But it was probably 10%, not much.
That's really ironic that it's the cartoony comic that gave you the most trouble.
Because I think
you would think,
yes, I think the two guys that worked on Forbidden, their strength was in fantasy illustration, and they both really enjoyed working on it. So when
that's
you
good.
have
That's
that, they want to put their best foot forward. When it's just a job, it might not be that. You know what I mean? So
right, yeah.
A lot of feedback. If you're not 100% committed, you just want the check.
Yeah, that I think that's the hardest part, I guess, of finding an artist to work on your project. I guess finding anybody to work on your project is making, not only just making that connection artistically, but making that connection with the story so that they actually enjoy working on the project.
Yes.
Yeah, that I could imagine that's kind of like the hardest thing to look for.
And all the time, he's like, "Well, we love it, but it's probably just a job, And I'm like, "I don't care. Gotta get it right." But and then so we're getting to the point jumping into Cast the Crazies, we're getting to the point where in issue 5, there's a whole lot more of elsewhere and all that stuff. Where that's why I'm taking over the illustration from that point on. And I think he did an amazing job with the colors. He did, he did a great. He's finished. He's gonna be finishing up issue 4, and then at that point, I'll take off issue 5. But on Forbidden, when I work with talent, I let them breathe. And I just if there's something crazy, then I'll bring it up. But I find that mostly writers are a lot more anal. Writers can be pains in the rear for artists. But if you're an artist and you recognize it, it's easy to talk to the artist about, camera angles and perspective and all that other stuff. And what I do also in the script is I'm very descriptive. I'll say, page 2, 5 panels, panel 1, bird's eye view of sin, whatever, and looking.
Oh,
I give them enough description that you can't really flub it.
Right.
I write it as if you're going to make a film. So it's definitely giving everybody, the cameraman, the lighting guy, all directions. So everybody knows exactly where to meet on that panel.
So is that how you look at all your comic book projects, as like, there's a movie in my head, so this is how I want it to look, right?
Yes, everything. I'm like, where's the camera? Where's the light? What position should the camera be in? Who should be in this shot? That's how I look at it. So I also write my scripts for me that way. So even though I'm going to illustrate it, I write it for me because sometimes I'll forget. So I make sure that I write it as if I'm going to give it to somebody else or if I'm going to do it to me.
That's the movie, because it's like it's always it's like, because I think of my comic book work, it's the same way. It's like there's that movie running in the head and then trying to translate it onto the paper. So so let's talk about the Crazies for a bit, because it's like that was a book that kind of came out of left field. Like, you were almost surprised that that you are actually doing this. I mean, that's kind of how it felt like when it started coming to fruition, that it's like poof. Here they are.
When we came back to podcasting, I knew that George and I would be working on a comic book again. I just didn't know what it would be. And so it started with The Crazy Man. So one of the things I'm always thinking about is branding and diversifying your portfolio and getting into as many multimedia channels as possible to really, grow your brand. So when we started doing the podcasting again, I knew that I was going to that Cast the Craze was going to evolve, and which is why on the back end I was working on the theme songs and the logos and all that stuff, whatever. And so then The Crazy Man became a skit for Stop Acting Up, because you hear me on the show always telling the George, stop acting up. And so, and it became a skit, and it just became organic. I started filming myself talking to The Crazy Man, trying to catch the craze. And that's how it went. And then one day I was just sitting alone, having a sip of, whiskey. And then it just hit me. I was like, oh, the story hit me. I was like, oh, wait, there's a story here. It's our story with the twist and the Crazy Man. And so I already knew. I was trying to design the characters and I didn't like what I was doing. And so I commissioned an artist that I worked with in the past to take my concept and do it in his style. And then I called George. I was like, yo, because the goal was to surprise George. He was like, yo, we're going to work on a book together. And then when I told him, he starts laughing and we start talking. And I was like, you want to write it? And he was like, what? Because they know, the guys know me from back in the days. I want to do everything. And so this time I was like, no, go ahead. And I knew I wasn't going to illustrate it at the time. I knew I was going to commission an artist. And so because I had other plans for things I wanted to do. So it was in development for few months before we even launched it, and I'm not into it. That's why for a few months ahead of time, there were promos I was putting out saying, "Are you crazy enough? How crazy are you? Are you extreme crazy? Are you psycho crazy?" And so, you know, and it was really linking to the Patreon that we're developing. But then that's how it evolved. So I took all of those things, the names of the crazies, the concept, George and I's story, and then made it a fun comedic adventure.
That's kind of like a fictional autobiography, kind of.
It's definitely hilarious. And book three is crazy. And it gets funnier and funnier. We have fun writing it together. We have fun doing table reads together. Um, you know, and in I think now that it's more organic now. In the beginning, there was a lot of going back and forth, ideas, all that stuff, and now it's just organic. Where George will go and write the script, and then I'll go back and I'll look at the dialogue. Because for the most part, he gets the pacing, he gets the setting, all that stuff, whatever, and everything we talk about. But it's more of the characters and their spirit and how they speak, each individual character. And so when I'm going back and speaking, I'm speaking as the character. So when I look at the dialogues, I know that's not how Super Crazy speaks, or that's not how Crazy speaks. And so I'll go back and I'll get into the scene and I become that character. So that's how.
So it's kind of like when Walt Disney would act out the storyboards to make sure that the mood was correct or something. So
I remember
so
the first.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
Time I spoke in Super Crazy's voice to George. It was he started laughing, and so he got it because when he saw what I wrote, he thought maybe I was a typo or whatever. He's like, I don't understand. And I was like, all right, and then I sounded it out, and he started laughing. He's like, oh, um, you know, but that's the fun part because these characters are just wacky and zany and all types of fun.
So you said that you even wrote a theme song for the for the comic. So the comic is it going to have its own soundtrack
Yeah.
with the voice acting?
Look for some commercials with the characters.
Oh, okay, cool. Because I've seen the ones with the crazy man, the one where you're hiding, you guys are hiding. I think is my favorite one. It's like nobody says fresh anymore.
Oh, yeah, wait till you see because he comes in. I think issue 3, and he's special.
Oh yeah.
The way he speaks and everything else, and one thing JC did, he did capture the essence of the crazy man in that book.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So what let's go back a little bit and talk about the book that pretty much us old school heads know you for. And that's Duty. That's pretty much Duty. So tell us about Duty, and is there is he gonna have a comeback too? I mean, it's like, well, tell us about Duty first.
Do Darius. So he is he is
I just wanted to hear you say the name.
he's special. So Duty thinks he's smarter than everybody. Thinks his world where he comes from, Uranus, needs him, and but he's really a nuisance to General Goatee, and so basically they send Duty off as a joke to Earth, and they tell me he's on a special recon mission to determine if Earth is a threat to Uranus. And Duty's father is actually Duty's father.
That's just ignore that in the background. That's just my doorbell. They can leave it at the front.
Yeah, so Duty's father is the ruler of Uranus, and so and so Duty, he gets in his ship and he's on his way to Earth and he's talking a lot of jazz. And then next you know, he realizes that he forgot to refuel and he crash lands on Earth. And from that point on, it takes off where he is just trying to survive Earth's primitive creatures. And so issues 1 and 2 are him just trying to evade bears and wolves and woodpeckers and then there's a government agency that is investigating a UFO sighting, and so they're on the hunt for where this object crashed. And so Duty makes it into a home, and that's when he gets involved with Herman the Chihuahua, who thinks Duty is a talking jalapeno, and then and it takes off from there. And the father, the son, saying that he's seen an alien in the toilet. The father doesn't believe him, and then he becomes the butt of jokes at work by his friends, and so it just takes off from that point on. And the whole idea is for Duty to get back off the planet and not get captured by the U.S. government, who has agencies out there to track him, and so it's a lot of fun. But the goal for Duty, I want to finish the crazies and get Forbidden out there before I go on. But yeah, Duty will have its comeback because 6 issues were done, and it's in the pipeline. And I will be finishing the last 4. Because Designated My Toilet ends at issue 10. It was 12, but I reduced it to 10, and then it takes off into Hi, I'm Duty from Uranus, and then it goes from there, and he starts his own series. But I won't be tackling that until I've finished Cast of Crazies, which there are 4 additional issues there. Then there's the Crazies. So, so right now, Duty's just sitting in the pipeline alongside Cosmic Wars.
And Cosmic Wars is your other sci-fi fantasy.
Yes. Yes.
So you intend on bringing everything back eventually.
Eventually, all depends on. I want to start, finish, and complete. I want to start and complete every single project one at a time, so that way it has all my attention. The good thing about Forbidden is done. The only thing I'm illustrating right now is I'm adding content to the sketchbook, and I'll be doing pinups and variant covers. That's all I'm doing for Forbidden, and for Cast of Crazies, I'll be doing all of it, the interior art and covers. So that's going to take up a lot of my time. I won't be coloring Cast of Crazies. We will be commissioning a colorist, but I will be doing the illustrations.
Right. So as an artist yourself, how difficult was it for you to delegate the work, like to decide that it's like, oh, I can't do this, or it's like I like pretty much it's like, how did you find it difficult to delegate and decide that you were going to start looking for other people to share in your world this way?
I think 15 years ago, it was tougher, because I had a chip on my shoulder and I wanted to prove a lot of things. Now I believe that you can only accomplish so much and give it 100%. You know what I mean? So I think for me, I know my strengths and where they lie. And so while I love Forbidden and I have fun designing the characters and all that stuff, I felt when I met Anibal that he was the right artist for it. I wasn't satisfied with the layouts that I put together. So I was like, well, he's stronger in that arena. I'm going to focus on Cosmic Wars. And because at that time it was Cosmic Wars before there was anything to it. And now it's just like, look, you can't do it all, which is why George is writing the book. You gotta leverage people's strengths, and the goal is to produce the best product you can. And if I tackled everything, something's going to fall to the wayside, and it's not going to be what it was set out to be. So I think again, it goes back with maturing over the years and just being able to say, you know what's the goal? The goal is to produce a great product. Um, am I realistically able to do that? No, I can't alone. I need to partner with people. I just got to make sure they're the right people. Because once I know that it's in good hands, I'm not over that person's shoulders. I'm like, go for it. It's just about if you got to love it as much as I do.
That's the trick, right? So let's talk about Sam. It's like right now you call yourself a brokerpreneur. But let's talk about Sam the artist. It's like, so so when did you start producing artwork? What were your general influences? When did you start doing this? From the very, at the very beginning, that you knew that this is what I want to do.
I knew I liked to draw, and this is where I'm going to date myself, and maybe the grays
Okay.
here, but I don't know if all you youngers out there might not remember, but Captain Kangaroo
Yeah.
used to come on TV, and when we used to have those really big giant television screen, and then we used to have those plastic covers that would go on the screen so that you won't damage the screen, the glass.
Yeah.
So Captain Kangaroo, there were times where they would need to get across the bridge and like, hey kids, now we need to draw a bridge. And so I would grab my marker and draw on the TV, but it was really on the plexiglass. And so I knew then I wanted to draw. and and then it wasn't really until I think I was in a junior high school, 7th grade, where I was drawing. No, sixth. That it was 6th grade. I was in 6th grade and I was drawing my GI Joe figures. So I would line them up and I would draw these scenes of GI Joe. And
So from the very beginning, you were using models. Pretty
yes,
much.
and then it wasn't until my mom's boyfriend said to me, "You'll never amount to a good artist because you're always copying. Real artists create from the head, the imagination." Because I used to pause the VCR and like my cartoons, and I would try to draw what I saw on the TV too. And so I hated the man for that. I was like, how do you just destroy my dream? And so then I just made it my mission to try to draw from my mind. And I found it difficult at first, and then I would close my eyes and I start seeing characters, and then I started creating. And I think one of my first I created geez, I forgot the name of the story. Um, it was about me and my friends, and then with an imaginary friend, which was a creature named Scrungy. Then I created um, um, Gorf, and it was the Adventures of Cosmic Gorf, and then it became Cosmic Wars, and that's what evolved. And then as the years went on, and although I was still drawing, I was rapping. I was in the music business, and then I created Crazy Skills Productions, and that's how Crazy Comics came to be because everything had to land on crazy, and and so for me, then my first book that I was drawing from start to finish was the Book of Wrath, and then it became Cosmic Wars. No, I started doing Black Earth. It was a book called Black Earth that I was doing with Robert Garrett, rest in peace. He was a writer, and then it became Cosmic Wars. That's when I met George at School of Visual Arts, and we were in a life drawing class together. And we weren't digging the life drawing class because all the models were male. And I was like, oh, come on, enough. And but yeah, that's how George and I met. And George had these little comiclets, little that he made at home that he was stapled together, and it was this comic about his I guess it's now his Wonder Duck. It was a duck character. And then he had Rush 5377. I was like, yo, let's do it as a book. And that's how we started.
So yeah, I mean, it's just funny to think about, like how long these characters have been with us.
Gorf has been
You
with me
know,
since I was. Gorf has been with me for about 6th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. I was influenced by Alf and Cosmic Cow. Um,
Oh,
uh, uh,
the
too close for not too
oh,
close.
too close for comfort.
Yes, with
Yes, right.
Shrek.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. He had the puppet.
Monroe. That was his name, Monroe.
Monroe, right,
And the dad had the
right,
puppet. He was an artist. He was an
right.
illustrator. Yeah. I was not a confident artist. I can tell you that. Um,
Well, I kind of wonder how many are.
yeah, I
To
wasn't
tell you
confident. I
the
would not.
truth.
I would never go to portfolio reviews at Comic Cons. Uh,
Right, yeah, yeah.
because I think a lot of it. Because I sent out my work, and I remember the one, and it was from Top Cow. I sent them my work, and you know what? Instead of a letter, I got photocopies, 11 by 17 copies of Michael Turner's work, and that was it.
Oh,
That's
okay.
all they had to say was, if it doesn't look like this, don't bother sending anything.
Well, you know,
And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go independent.
right, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's like you see, and that's the funny thing because it's like I never went to portfolio reviews either. You know, especially when you realize that it's like, oh, my stuff doesn't look like that. That they're looking for something very specific and particular, and
Yes.
then coming to that realization that it's like, oh, I'm never gonna draw like that.
I was
I could do 10,000 hours a day, and I will never draw like that.
yeah. I was like, nope, I'm not going over there. That's okay.
Yeah, yeah. So what was the first so what was your first foray into self-publishing now that you knew that Top Cow was off the table?
It was when I formed Crazy Comics, and it was
Wow.
when we started. It was George, myself, Robert Nunez, and I was able to convince Michael Carbonero of the Big Apple Comic Con to give me a table for free. We've never done a Comic Con. We've never done anything. This is our first time, a bunch of guys doing comic books. Um, and so I did a pinup for Michael Carbonero. I convinced him that I would do pinups for his shows, and he gave me a free table. And so that was our first time there, and it was all three of us um, with our partners at the time, and it was our coming out party. It was amazing. Because everything we had was gloss color, and everyone took notice, and we got a lot of attention. We sold a lot of books, and because of all the attention, and I forgot the other promoter that worked for Mike, when he realized, because at times we had dozens of people at the table at a time.
Huh?
They're like, we want these guys back all the time. They're good for business. And so from that point on, I think it was like a few years that we always were invited free at the Comic Cons, and but it was a big great. It was good and bad. It was great because we felt like we were now equals with everybody in that arena, and we were new to the whole area. And they're like, "Who the hell are these guys?" It was bad because the ego inflates, and now you think that you're invincible, right? And that every convention is going to be the same way, and you're gonna, and now there's a
You
rude
start doing
awakening.
convention math.
Yes, and then we were just trying to go to as many conventions as possible, and sometimes we didn't scout the conventions to see if it's our audience, and so we'd go there and we'd be like, at a prom waiting for someone to ask us to dance, and it would be painful, but it was a great experience. I mean, I learned a lot. It made me hungrier and made me more aggressive, uh, and like you couldn't tell me anything. I was like, what? And with the media contacting the press, the amount of things, the hustle was real. And it was a great time. It was a great learning experience. It definitely taught me a lot back then, things to do and things not to do.
So what would be like your main lesson to do? What would be the main to do lesson that you learned from there?
Uh, have a finished product.
Ah. Almost a trick question.
I think the biggest thing is just like, because when we started, we both just had, one issue. And he was releasing Russ, I was releasing Cosmic Wars. and we didn't have that follow up, so we put unnecessary pressure on ourselves to produce the other books, and we felt like, oh, we got to have another issue for every convention, and that wasn't the case. I think the lesson there was pace yourself, um, you know, pick your battles, and enjoy the process. Because one of the things that I'm still working through is
Wow.
balance. This takes up a
Yeah.
lot of your time, and
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I had to walk away from comics for so long, for over 10 years, is because it was ruining the household. Because
Mm.
I would go to work full time, and then I'd come home and I'd lock myself in the basement, and I was just creating and grinding. I was doing the podcast, I was doing the comics, and and if I wasn't doing that, I was on the road traveling to conventions, and if I wasn't doing that, I was doing press. Um, and I forgot that I was married, and so it was like,
Oops.
um, yeah, so it really put a strain, and I had to make a decision, and I had to walk away from it.
Yeah, that's a common theme that a common issue that I keep hearing. It's like, what happens when one person is the creative one and is involved in a creative industry, and the other person is kind of like along for the ride, but they're not necessarily involved. And it's like, yeah, that's a different kind of dynamic than if both people are into the same thing,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I mean, it's like, did you, I mean, I know you had to, so you walked away from from it for 10 years, like, so how did you handle that? Because I did remember, like, it really felt like you disappeared.
Yeah, I know. It
Like,
was
did you? Yeah, it's like, in
where
that 10 years, it, did you still kind of like keep tabs on things, or it's kind of like you had to completely stay away from it? Like, what was those 10 years like for you?
uh, painful, because there was something incomplete, something missing, and I remember disappearing for at least 2 years. And then I went to a Comic Con, and I felt out of place. I went
Mm,
there as a spectator, as a fan, and I felt out of place, and I felt awkward. Like, I felt like I didn't recognize anything anymore, and it was just weird. And so I buried myself in the corporate world, and I was just aggressively moving up the corporate ladder, and every other year, moving up the next layer, and I just engulfed myself. Well, if I'm not going to do this, I'm going to be as successful um, in this arena as possible, and I was doing extremely well. Was responsible for over 100 stores in multiple states, and I was traveling all the time, and traveled around the world, and but it was still something missing. So then it wasn't until we were able to buy our home, and I had all the stuff still in boxes. I was like, look, it's either I sell it all or I give it another shot. And she said, you need to go after your dream, and I was like, that's all you have to say. And it was like over the top when his son came, and he saw him, and because he was gonna lose everything, so it was like that switch, whoosh. And now it was the how, because I've been gone for so long and everything's changed. I was so good at working the marketing aspect back then. I knew all of the ins and outs. I knew the players. You know, now coming in, I didn't know anybody. Now coming in, the I was one of a handful of podcasters. We were very successful back then. Now I'm one in a million, and
yeah.
I'm trying to reinvent a show that in the beginning was very popular. So it was now I had to learn the technology that changed. I had to learn about the industry. So I spent from that moment where the decision was made, I spent about 6 to 8 months just learning, educating myself, research, watching YouTube channels, asking some of the YouTubers the tools that they use, sitting in on live shows, so I just went and educated myself, and I went and changed my soundboard to from I had a mixer to now I have a Rodecaster Pro. So I still had the same microphone, so that was good. I didn't have to waste any money there. So it was just about figuring out how to manipulate the system, figure out how the web works, social media. I had to get an Instagram, had to do all these things. I didn't use my Twitter for those 10 years, so then I had to go and revisit that. So there was a lot of things that for me it was just not just dive in. It was a lot of homework on the back end, and then I was like, let me go see how I feel at a Comic Con, and so I went to the New York, the Kids Comic Con, and I was like, that's a good place for me to get my feet wet and see how things go. So I went to the Kids Comic Con. Felt good. George met me up there. We started talking, and that's when the conversation started. And then I did the White Plains Comic Con. And then my first show was on Mark Torres's show. It came from the radio, and it felt good. It felt like I was home again. I was like, all right, I got this. And then I had big plans for 2020, and then bam. It was like,
yeah, that was kind of the brick wall. A lot of everybody. 2020, like everyone's like, oh, it's an even number. 2020 is going to be our year. It's like, well, technically yes, but not the way you want it.
Yeah, and now 2021 doesn't look good as it.
Yeah.
Because you see that San Diego canceled this year again.
Yeah.
So it's like, so the good thing about being locked up was being able to produce a lot of content and build on and try to catch up for lost time. The great thing about it is I made a lot of friends, in the community. You helped us out by introducing us to a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's like, so the network is building. People are getting to know who we are, what we do. We did just come out of nowhere. We were
Right, yeah.
podcasting when there weren't many podcasts. It was us, Comic Geek Speak, and iFanboy. And so it's just about getting back into the arena, getting people familiarized with who we are, what we do. We're not one-trick ponies. We've been creating stuff for years. George stood in the game for years. He has Wonder Duck. He has Rush 5377. So now it's just about hoping to build that community. And we feel good about it, of the direction it's going. There are frustrating moments, because, I'm an impatient man sometimes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I grind all the time, but I'm not, the result is not as fast as I'm moving. And
Yeah.
you got to learn how to just sit down, put your seatbelt on, and just enjoy the ride.
Oh, so going back, so you had said that that I guess like the best thing that you learned from doing comics back in the day was, always have a finished book. What was the worst thing that you learned when you were doing? So what would you, so if that was the best thing you learned, what was the worst thing that you learned?
Promoting things that are not complete.
So they're both related. So the best and the worst are related.
For promoting, this is going to come out then and not having it ready. And I think that's the worst thing you can do for credibility. Only promote when you're ready to promote. Don't bite off more than you can chew, because just as quickly as somebody picked up your book and appreciated it, they will walk away when they feel slighted, and they're like, I keep coming back and you keep saying it's ready, it's not ready, what's up? So I think it's, timing is everything. Like, we didn't announce Catch the Crazies until we were ready. We didn't announce the new branding for Catch the Craze until it was ready. So I think, put into work on the back end, the stuff that people don't see. And then when you're ready, then put all your effort into promoting it.
So with that, but what's funny is, like, like that advice, I mean, is just as valid now as it was back then. Is there anything that you felt was like very different, aside from the amount of, I guess, I hate to use the word competition, because it's like,
it is, that's the word.
Well, because it's like, me personally, I mean, it's like, I mean, like our books are so different from each other that it's like it's kind of hard. I mean, it's like it's I have a hard time, like
It's a well, you're
seeing
competing.
like other books as a rival,
You're competing for the audience. This is attention.
Mhm.
So
Right.
it's not like I'm competing against you. We're competing for the same pool. We're trying to
Hmm.
we're trying to fish in the same pond, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you get a bite on your food
Cool.
versus the other person? And I think that's where because George says this to me all the time. No, it's not competition. I say yes, it is. And it really isn't with the creator. It's with the audience. We're competing
Mm.
for the audience's attention, for their affection, for their loyalty, for their love, and that's the hard part. So, and because there's so much to choose from, and everybody is shouting, the audience is, like, I'm not sure. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go with my taste rather than trying something new. I'm going to go with my
Yeah.
preference. So someone who's prefer furries are going to stay in that lane rather than trying to say, well, let me try
Right.
forbidden because,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
right? Because it's a safe space. There's no risk involved. They know what they're getting. The risk is investing in something new and you don't know if you're going to enjoy it. Do I really want to? So I think that's so. How do you do that? How do you get somebody to want to take a plunge and take that trip with you? That's the part where that keeps me up at night. It's like, how do I get enough? How do I speak louder on the microphone to get somebody's attention? Where everybody's shouting at the same time. When you look at the arena, I mean, until I started on Kickstarter, I didn't realize how competitive Kickstarter is. There's so much content and so much great content. So I stepped up my game because of it. When I looked at the way podcasting has evolved, I stepped up my game because of that. So it's like I need to make sure that what we do has value. It shows that we cared about the production, and that we're giving you something to enjoy. Um, and but now it's being someone from. I look at it. We were outsiders coming back in, so it's like we left home and now we're trying. When we're at the door, like someone, please answer the door, please. And so, and that's the part where people all the time like, oh, you draw comics? I thought you just did podcasts. You've been around for how long? I thought you just started it. So that's the things like get overcoming that hurdle, um, and creating a loyal fan base because we had that in New York. We had a loyal following. We were guaranteed anytime we did a Big Apple show, anything we did in New York, we did extremely well. And but they've all outgrown us and they've moved on, and I've disappeared, and everybody thought that I was like locked up in a bunker somewhere in the Middle East. So now it's just about how do you build that audience again?
Is there, it's like, yeah, it's like marketing is probably like the hardest part, because it's like here it is, it's like you're looking, you're literally looking at your baby, your creative babies, and trying to figure out, it's like, okay, it's like, how do I monetize this? And it's like it's a different way of looking at your work as opposed to like, this is something that I put my heart and soul in. And at the same time, it's like there's also this need to turn it into a commodity,
Right.
which weirdly depersonalizes it.
Right.
Was there like marketing, like was there something that you kind of like you knew was good marketing or might be would be helpful, but at the same time you were like going, oh, that doesn't fit the book, or it doesn't fit what we're trying to do, like is that like a decision, like decisions that you sometimes make, like, okay, we're gonna market this way as opposed to that way, like what's the thought process with marketing to you, marketing your stuff?
It was easier for me back then.
Mm,
I think now it's a little
interesting.
more. It's a little more challenging because we're in the era of likes, but not engagement,
Mm,
right? So
yeah, pretty much.
I could
Yeah.
tell you a perfect example is I ran an ad for Forbidden and on Facebook and Instagram, and I got over 700 likes, but there's no engagement, right? So
Right.
people are trained to hit like, and because everyone's moving and no one's in the moment, they're just going scrolling, like scrolling. Um, like I did an episode on some of the Instagram artists that I follow, and I tagged them and I talked to, and I showed their portfolios the whole bit, and they responded like they were amazed at the fact that someone's acknowledging and engaging. But I wanted to give kudos because I was like, look, I follow you guys for a reason, um, and the engagement is limited. I mean, you'll get one-liners, and so we're back when I started, it was easier to get people connected through conversation and not through tools. And now it's through tools, and it's very short-handed, and it's bullet pointed, um, and it's not genuine, and it's more of transactional than anything. So it's
Right.
how do you build those relationships? You can't until you've established trust. How do you establish trust? You can't when it's impersonal and you have a screen between you. That's why I miss the events because that's how you build those relationships. I had families. I had families that would always come and then we would write each other and they would send me emails. Oh, we can't wait. What event are you going to be at next? Oh, we're having a birthday party. We like to, order this many books. And, we had that before. Now it's like, it's a different arena and we're all promoting in the same pool. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
I had this conversation with George. I'm trying to figure out what I need to do differently that's going to make a difference because I'm doing the same thing everybody else is doing and that's not working for me. So it's like how do I change that and how do I break that what I did well back then, you know?
Yeah. I mean, because that's the irony of it. Because it's like back then, that's the weird thing. It's like back then it felt so much harder because you had to be in people's faces. Like, oh, you had to do it. It was kind of like a like promoting a comic was more physical. Like you had to be at conventions, you had to do the road trips, one show after another. Like even doing San Diego, it's like because of the the acceptance rules that they had, you literally had to have a new product every year
Yes.
just to be able to get a table
Yes.
at in the small press area. Or they would, it's like no, it's like you had to send them samples to guarantee that you're not going to the show every year selling the same stuff. They wanted you to bring, I mean, there was more of a physicality to it, and because of that it felt harder. And you would think that you know with social media and the internet kind of like democratizing everything, that it's like, oh, now it's like I can do all this from my computer. Yeah, to find out that it's like no, it's even harder because you don't have. I think that's the hardest thing about what's been happening lately. It's like it's like we're already hitting the 1 year anniversary of the 2 week lockdown.
Yes, I think this is a
And
5-year lockdown.
yeah, it's yeah, because it's like I remember pretty much locking myself down on March 13th. I mean, it's like on the day, it's like that was the day. It's like okay, time to go to supermarket, grab everything, and then like hunker down
I
for
remember
what
I had to
turned
tell
out
my
to be.
staff we were a couple days away from opening up a brand new location, and I just hired a team, trained a team, we built out the
Uh-huh.
location, the whole bit, and I had to tell them they're all being laid off um, on lockdown. Yeah, I remember that, and
Yeah,
I didn't realize that by the end of the year I'd be in the same position.
yeah. I mean, and yeah, it's like so. What was what was the like? What was the biggest thing? I mean, it's like I know that you finished Forbidden. I guess like you made it under the wire, getting it finished before lockdown happened, and it did lockdown like like did you get like a more creative energy? Did you feel that I miss conventions, to tell you the truth?
Yeah, so do I.
Like that was the one thing, because up until that point I was like up to here with conventions. I was like, oh, I'm tired of, it's like blah 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 on this and always fighting. Now it's like, now I'm seriously considering, spending the $1,500 to go to New York Comic Con. I mean, it's like I am just like so desperate for that
Yeah.
interaction, that direct interaction. So that was like a surprising thing that I learned about myself. What was did lockdown do anything for you creatively, or like made you do things differently that maybe you took for granted before?
Oh, it made me um it made me a student, um, but a practicing student. It gave me the time to try new things and to explore. It gave me the time to flesh things out. Uh, and I always talk about branding. I've always talked about branding, and it's like work on my brand and figure things out and play. Um, and try to get as many things accomplished um, with the time that I had while I had it. Um, so yes, I mean I produce a lot more. I've gotten better as an illustrator. Um, I've gotten better as a video editor. I've gotten, so there's a lot of tools and skills that I learned, and I've grown through this process. I made a lot more contacts because George was always the social butterfly. I was always the most more apprehensive and guarded person, and this
Which is surprising considering how much you ended up on TV.
I know, but it was a means. It was one of those things that you needed to do. Like, um, I see it all the time. It's like it's when I'm selling something, you know, I got this. But when it came to people, I'm very cautious, right? So you could put me on a stage in front of thousands of people, I'll be fine. You put me in a room one on one, most of the time I'm like trying to figure out what is your agenda, right? And so that was one of the things that and George even said it. Sometimes it comes off as if you know um, you're standoffish, and so I needed to work on that, and that came from my security background too, because you don't trust anybody, and so so I learned how to tone it down, and let people in, and then figure it out along the way. Well, before I was trying to figure them out first, and just not assume the worst every time and just have fun. So that's one of those things that I worked on for myself, because I'm not in security. I'm in comics, and it's not that serious. Sam, stop acting up. So, so yeah, so that's one of those things that I learned.
So we're kind of like 15 minutes away from the end of the show. Um so it's like if 2020, yeah, it's like, because I remember it's like, 2020 was supposed to be our year, and that didn't turn out to be the case. So what is it that, I know it's kind of hard to think ahead. That's the one thing that I kind of hate about this whole thing is not being able to think ahead. But um do you see yourself thinking ahead? Like how far ahead do you think about all this?
I think of everything in quarters. and that's probably from the business world. I look at everything at 3-month increments, and so I look at it a year out. I look at everything a year out, and so I had to recalibrate again. I'm sorry, but I always go back to, but I had to recalibrate in December when I realized that COVID's going to be around for a lot longer than we expected.
Yeah.
So, and I had to come to the realization that the events are not going to be as readily available as they were a couple years ago, and so I can't bank on that. So I had to rethink my approach to 2021. So what I landed on is like, make sure the crazies is done. Make sure we build on the audience with the crazies. Um, get um, Forbidden available on print on demand and online, and hopefully get it colored. And what I said, I do have timelines. I have a vision board, and there's specific timelines that I have for I want to accomplish certain things. And um, when I hold myself accountable to the work that's required and the sacrifice that's required to make it happen. Now, if I gave it 110% every time and I didn't take any shortcuts and I put my best foot forward, if the chips didn't fall and land in my favor, at least I gave it 110%. I gave it my best. But if I don't make it, it's because I didn't give it 100%, then I can't face myself. So that's why I work
Mm.
as hard as I do. Um, so I can't. There's no way for me to know what's going to happen because on one hand you're hearing, yes, by May everyone's gonna have access to be able to get vaccinated, but then on the other hand you're hearing in Brazil that in one day they lost 17,000 people for the new strain, and but then we're opening up borders, and what does that mean?
Yeah.
So for me, when I look at all that stuff, I was like, all right, we're still not going to be anywhere near normal like we were. So what can I do on my own? So the goal is wait till we have enough issues done, then self-distribute to stores, within New Jersey and New York. The goal is to try to work with local, because back then George and I were really good at going to schools, um, stores, doing guest appearances, all that stuff, whatever, and talking to students. Now it's like everyone's homeschooled. Now it's like everything's changed. So we have to figure out. I'm trying to figure out how to circumvent the change and be ahead of the curve before everybody else sees that open door and starts flooding it. And that's the thing. It's like I don't want to go to a door where there's a billion people already there because it doesn't matter if I'm a billion and one. I want to go to the door when I'm one of the first few that got in there so I can make a difference. Then everybody follows. I'm already there. I've already established myself. So I think that's the hard part. There's so much uncertain. The dynamic has changed. The reason why it's even harder for everybody now is because the moment they went on lockdown, everybody's podcasting, everybody's online.
Yeah.
So now you have millions more people that were preoccupied with work and family. They had no time for all that stuff. But the reason why, webcams went through the roof and all
Yeah.
this stuff, and you couldn't even, there was a period of few months where you couldn't even get a webcam because it was sold out. They couldn't produce them fast enough. So now with the world all doing the same thing, what's that different thing? What's going to make the difference? At least to be able to get you to the people that you're trying to attract to be able to create a fan base for your product. That's the hard part.
Right. Yeah, that's yeah. So yeah, I mean, this whole thing, it's been what's the one thing that your takeaway from just you look back on your entire career so far, and what's like the one thing that stands out for you the most of it, like whether it's a takeaway or a learning experience or something like something that kind of sticks with you from all that time. It.
I think it goes back to what I always preach to the people that I was responsible for when I was in working. Um, don't let anybody tell you who you're supposed to be or who you are. Um, if you're passionate about something, then go for it. But understand that anything that you're passionate about requires commitment and risk and sacrifice. So you have to acknowledge those things. And so I think for me, the biggest takeaway was I should have figured out a way to get what I wanted out of it and balance my life so that I wouldn't put my personal life in jeopardy. I think that was the thing. It was such a drastic decision, and it went against everything I would tell my teams. You know what I mean? So where I couldn't see the happy medium at the time, it was all or nothing, and it was that immaturity in me. And
Mm.
so over the years, I would preach to when someone lacked confidence and I'd see that they were spoken to in a certain way by someone in management, I'd intervene, and I'm like, "Wait, hold on. You know this. You have the answers. Why are you accepting someone to tell you how to do it when you know it?" And then to the other person, why would you speak to somebody because you assume that they don't know? Your job is to teach. So it's like I'm always coaching people on how to be better, and I ran away instead of figuring out how to give everybody what they wanted and get at the same thing for me at the same time. So it was definitely, again, a lot of it stems from the fact that I didn't have a mentor. So there was no that guru to guide me and say, here's my crossroad. This is where I'm at. How do I work through this process right now? At that time, I was so immature that it was my way or the highway, all or nothing. So at that point, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna give it all up. And so in hindsight, um, I would have found a way to balance it and be a good partner and
Uh,
enjoy the creative process at the same time.
that's
'Cause I
that
was
that's a very that no that's it's kind of an intense answer, it's like, but I mean, yeah, it's like, yeah, this whole process is not easy for anybody, and anybody who says that it is either they're lying either about knowing the process or being a part of the process. So,
yeah.
yeah, give us one last I guess, like, one last hype about Forbidden on IndieGogo before we and tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, you could find me here on YouTube, Catch the Craze. That's where I live all the time. Or crazycomics.com. That's with two E's and not a Y. But anywhere on social media, it's Catch the Craze with a D. So Catch the Craze. And Forbidden. Um, if you love to imagine and you love to escape into a world that you could be a part of, if you root for the underdog, if you're a big believer that a woman can lead, this is the book for you. This book is a tale of a family that's torn apart, a sister caught between her father and her brother, a son who's risking it all but doesn't understand why. There's so much to it. There's so many twists and turns. There's amazing characters. You'll fall in love with Viejo, um, who gets introduced in book two. Um, Give it a chance. What do you have to lose? Take that journey with me. It only takes that one read, and I'm telling you, you'll fall in love with one of the characters. Journey into the forbidden with me. There it
And
is.
as you can see, there we go.
It is beautiful. It is awesome. I mean,
Well, obviously, I still need to finish. I still need to finish up a bunch more stuff with it, and I still have to color it. But
it's
but
awesome.
this is thank you. This is what we have so far. Well, I want to thank my special guest Sam for being on the show and sharing his story with us. I mean, it just goes to show you that the road to to what we do, it's not an easy one, and it really does take a constant unfortunately, yeah, a constant grind that we have to, always be on top of and be conscious about how it affects us and how it affects the work and how it affects other people around us. And even though sometimes we like to think we work in a bubble, we don't. And we always have to remember that there is a larger world that we're affecting with our work. So thank you, Sam, for joining me on this
Bro,
live stream experiment.
bro, I mean, you brought things out of me that I forgot about. I didn't realize I was on Oprah.
Well, it's but so thanks for coming on. And I'm going to do my outro, and just give me a minute, because again, it's like, just because we look professional doesn't mean we really are. So thank you again. Uh, don't go away when I put you backstage. Don't go away, because that doorbell might be something I want to show you. So all right. So see you later. Hold on. And here we go. And here we go. So I hope everybody enjoyed my special interview with my even more special guest, Sam Vera. His book Forbidden on IndieGogo right now, and check out his Catch the Craze channel, which a lot of great interviews um, about all sorts of indie creators, whether it's comics, whether it's music, whether it's books, everything. And as always, you can check out my work at egoworks.com, my main website. I have some social media right here, but you can check everything out at egoworks.com, where again, you can read the first 5 issues of Ego Raven for free. The next Kickstarter will be available for issue 2, May 3rd, because I'm even forgetting my own stuff. And if you prefer your fantasy to be more action oriented, sort of like more Lord of the Rings, you can check out Tall Tales Online. That's Tall Tales, TAILS online.com, where you can read the first 20 issues of Tall Tales for free. And don't forget to sign up for my monthly newsletter, because we also have a Kickstarter coming up soon for Tall Tales Volume 1, where we're going to be starting the entire series from the beginning. So this is going to be issues 1 through 5 of Thieves Quest. So if you wanted to find a jumping on point, this is it. So don't forget to sign up. That campaign is going to be starting probably at the end of March. So sign up to make sure that you get notified for that. So on that note, I just want to thank everybody again. And I'll see you all on the next video, including him making all that noise. So, and I'll see you all on the next video. So thank you all again, and ciao.